Hello there, and welcome to another BoBeats synth review, and today we are checking out a quite unexpected new synth from Sequential. And this sound, I think, really shows the expressiveness of the synthesizer. The synth is called Fourm, and it's a 4-voice analog polysynth, and it's a really compact synthesizer, quite a bit smaller than you might think, and it also sports Polyphonic Aftertouch, which works surprisingly well even though the keys are quite small. In today's synth review, I'm going to do an overview of what this synth is. We're going to play a lot of sound demos, some music demos. I'm also going to make some patches from scratch. And full disclosure, the Fourm was sent over to me by Sequential. They sent me a review unit, but they didn't pay for a video, and I'm free to say what I want, but the video does have a sponsor. My channel is sponsored by the music store Uns. They focus on synths from small indie manufacturers, kind of the golden nuggets, the unique stuff that you might not find in bigger stores. And we actually teamed up and we're doing a little bit of a discount on the Metal Fetishist. And if you didn't know, the Metal Fetishist is this really cool, very aggressive synthesizer. It can also do some really nice acid sounds. They also sell other really cool stuff like the DF Audio Patch Bay, Synthrise, Synth Stands, the Svenergizer, and synths from Michigan Synthworks. And Unsuns is a store run by synth lovers for us synth lovers. So go and check them out, linked in the description. Let's start with an overview of the Fourm. And first up, it's an analog 4-voice polyphonic synthesizer. According to Sequential, the signal path is 100% analog. We have 2 analog oscillators with octave and frequency control, sawtooth, pulse wave, as well as triangle on the second one. The second one can also be set to an LFO. We have a mixer section over here with feedback control, which feeds back the post-filter sound into the unit itself. And this gives the sound a lot more presence. Let's introduce some feedback. I mean, I really like the feedback mechanism. And some noise. Without feedback and noise. Still nice, but yeah. So level control of the 2 oscillators, we have noise amount. You can also set different types. So we have white, pink, and violet types of noise. Then we have the filter section. It has a low pass filter. There's no other settings for it. You have resonance control, and you can make it self-oscillate if you turn up the resonance high enough. There's key tracking here as well. And you can also set one of the envelopes here, the filter envelope here, to control it. And with both oscillators turned down, got some self-oscillating going on there. And on this sound, I think we can really hear the sweet filter. We have two ADSR envelopes. One is routed to the filter, the other one to the amp. Main level control also works for the headphones output on the back, program volume, pitch wheel settings, and then we have the arpeggiator. It's a programmable arpeggiator. It's quite nice. Clock settings. And then we have the LFO over here with different waveforms. You can also select multiple ones. And also the sample and hold has a couple of different settings here in the menu. So you can go from random to pink noise to white noise, violet noise. We can turn glide on and off. And there's a couple of different settings for it. And we also have unison, so you can stack the voices or do a chord. Then we have the modulation matrix, where you have 3 different sources that can be routed to 8 destinations. Then down here we have the settings for the Polyphonic Aftertouch. Again, you can't freely set up the Aftertouch to affect any parameter. Instead, you can set it to 3 different destinations. Frequency, A and B for the 2 different oscillators. And you can send it to filter or amp and LFO, frequency and amount. And you only have 1 knob here to set the total amount being sent to all of them. And not to forget, there's also sync here for oscillator A. Which gives you this very sequential-like sync sound. The synth itself is quite a bit heavier than you might think by just looking at it. It feels pretty good. The knobs offer a lot of resistance, and they have this textured grip here, which is similar to what's on the other sequential synths. And I want you to note that it has a mono output. A lot of synths, polyphonic synths, have stereo outputs. It is not that the entire signal chain is stereo, rather the effects are. And because this one doesn't have any built-in effects, it has a mono output, but you can of course run it through any stereo effect to get more width to the sound. And if I were to summarize what this synth is, I would say it's a sequential synth. It sounds like a sequential synth, but in a much smaller form factor. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. It's a very classic synthesizer. It doesn't even have built-in effects. It has a mono output because, yeah, there's no stereo effects on it, and the signal path is mono. And it's also currently the least expensive way to get that sequential synth sound, even though it's still not cheap, but it's at least more affordable than, say, a Take 5. Next up, I'm gonna play a few preset sounds so you get an idea of what this synth sounds like. Oh, I really like this sound. I mean, there's just a lot of presence here. The Fourm also has a programmable arpeggiator. Like how massive it can sound. And that's without feedback. So let's turn up the feedback a lot. And keep in mind that these sounds are completely dry, there's no effects going on here, so adding in effects will of course make a huge difference. Can we do a bit of acid sounds as well? If I am to say something negative about the sound, I would say that it's very classic sounding. Don't expect this synth to bring anything new in terms of sound. We've all heard this kind of sound before. It's a sound that a lot of people enjoy, myself included, and it's tried and tested, it's classic for a reason, but just don't expect it to bring anything new to the table. So as you can hear, it can sound pretty big. Of course, you will need some external effects to really make it shine, but I think what we got here is a really, really solid analog tone. It sounds really good to my ears, has a lot of presence, a lot of character, and I mean, what's not to like about that? Next up, I'm gonna make a patch from scratch, and it is a very straightforward synth to make sounds on. Let's turn up oscillator B. And when you press something like pulse, for example, the screen immediately jumps to pulse width. So you can change the pulse width per oscillator. And if we want to use the LFO, we press here so it turns red. And then we go to pulse width A. The LFO is set to triangle. We can also mix between different waveforms here, and there are also multiple different sample and hold modes. So if I press here, the screen automatically jumps here to sample and hold, and we can change to random, pink noise, white, violet, and also DC. This is a really well-designed, intuitive menu system. You can also mix between the waveforms by selecting multiple ones. Let's go with triangle. Let's enable pulse width B for the second oscillator. Let's turn that up. Let's turn it down an octave. Now next up, I want to use the aftertouch here to control the frequency of oscillator A as well as the frequency of the LFO. So what I do here is I make sure everything's turned off. This one is centered. So this knob here controls the amount positively and negatively. So if I want to change, say I want to change the filter here to go down, then I just put it negatively. But it's just one amount for all of these destinations. So you can't set up different amounts for different destinations. So what I want to do first is I want to turn on sync. So sync basically syncs the pitch of oscillator A to oscillator B. So we get this synced sound. And I want to control it with aftertouch. So I enable frequency here as a destination. And when I press hard on the key, we hear the sync sound. And then I press here so that I am controlling the frequency amount of the low frequency oscillator with aftertouch. Maybe turn the frequency down a bit. Let's tweak the filter a bit. And we can use the filter envelope here with the amount control here. to rein in the sound. And we can turn on feedback. Get a little bit more presence. Let's turn on noise, and here's something I don't like. I don't like it that it's set to the max level 127 because it goes kind of hard. We can also enable filter control with Aftertouch, and since this is set to a positive value, it means that it will open up the filter when I press down the keys. So with the filter closed down like this, and with the max here on the envelope amount, and a short and snappy envelope, we get a very bright attack, and it closes down pretty quickly. But if I press it hard, it opens up. Let's turn up the feedback. Kind of nice. Maybe we can record a sequence here. And the arpeggiator is very straightforward to use. You press rec to record, put in a note, and then if you want to tie it, press tie. And then we can add rests between the other notes if you want to. Press on. And when it comes to the mod matrix, we can also use, for example, the filter envelope here to control the pulse width. And the frequency of oscillator A. But we can also control this using the mod wheel. So press here, it turns blue. These turn blue. And it's perhaps most noticeable if we turn on the LFO here and route it so that the mod controls it. You can also make it so that the destination, if we press it again, it turns purple. The destination receives from both the mod wheel here and anything that we have directly set up. So I think I've shown you that it's a straightforward synth to make a sound on. It is not, however, a very deep synthesizer. So if you want something more complex for more complex sound design, I would look at, for example, the Take 5 from Sequential. Sounds similar. I think this one has a little bit more of an old school tone to it. But yeah, they're similar, but the Take 5 is, well, it has one more voice and it has built-in effects. But most importantly for sound design, a much deeper mod matrix. So last in today's video, I just want to talk about a few negatives, and the list grew shorter and shorter the more I used the Fourm. First up, I felt that the Aftertouch was a little bit wonky, but then I realized I was on older firmware. I updated the firmware and now it works really well. It's surprisingly good, even though the keys are quite slim. But the slim keys could definitely be a negative. I have quite small hands and the keys still feel quite small. So if you have large hands, it might be a problem for you. Another issue or drawback with the synth is that it doesn't have any built-in effects. So you actually have to add that. It's definitely something that you will notice. I think my sound demos shows this quite clearly, that as soon as you add a stereo delay or reverb on it, it just comes to life in a totally different way. So yeah, depending on your use case, you might want to add on the cost for an effect or two to really make it shine. And so we arrive at what is arguably the biggest downside with the Fourm, and that is the price. It's an expensive synthesizer. If my information is correct, it will be around $1,000, and 4 voices for that amount of money is, yeah, it's quite expensive, but the price is what it is, and you have to decide whether or not it's worth that kind of money for you or not. As always, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to go and check out today's sponsor, Unz Unz. It's a store that focuses a lot on gear from smaller manufacturers, indie manufacturers, and for my audience, we are doing a little discount on the Metal Fetishist. So if you're interested in that, go and check it out. It's all linked down below. As always, have a great day. Talk to you later.